I'm going to put you back on your soapbox. So what? So speaking, I mean, we know what you're passionate about, right? And so am I. So I mean, the
Hmm.
show is called Automating Success for a reason. So the what's some things that you would say? You brought up that you don't have the marketing budget that some of these other places do. So let me help you with some of the marketing. What are some things that you believe Ambrosio, if you had a marketing budget, if you were marketing right now, what are things you'd want my listeners to know about your robots that maybe they don't know?
I guess the biggest thing is just to take a look at them and look at the features and benefits that are with the product. I mean, you mentioned it earlier, the quality of the workmanship of these Italian Ambrosio products is phenomenal. I mean, you can put us against any of our competition and put them side by side, and it's very clear who are the robotics people and who are the guys that are trying to build a robot to stay and they get in the market. You know, when I was doing zero turn mowers, there were 42 people at Louisville one year selling zero turn mowers. Half of them went away because they really weren't the quality, the expertise, the professionalism that we needed. With Ambrosio, I'll take my product, I'll put it upside side to anybody's. You know, maybe they have a couple things that I don't have, but I also think I can win on the fact that I have a high quality product. So the biggest thing is take a look at the product, take a look at it, give us a fair shot on it. You know, the product is great. The range is amazing. Some people say we have too many robots. You know,
Yeah,
we've done.
I actually am one of those people. I actually think you guys should simplify it a little bit. Not to call you out or put you on the spot, but I actually
it's okay.
agree.
And I'm not disagreeing. And you know, when I go back to the factory and I say, well, this is way too many robots, their comment is, well, every yard is different. And they're true. It's true. But you know, instead of trying to, you know, make sure that everybody's square peg can fit in that round hole, this gives us a little more flexibility. Now, I tell distributors all the time that not every robot is for everybody. We as an importer will stock every robot we're offered, but we don't expect our distributors to do that. We expect you to figure out, you know, where your niche market is and figure out which ones. You know, this year I went to the distributors and I said, we're going to trim down the line a little bit. These ones are kind of redundant. And the next thing we know, the factory is bringing out more robots, you know, and we're excited about the new robots because they address a situation with a solution. That's the fun part. As I have solutions to a lot of issues that are out there with whether it be a big slope, whether it be high grass, whether it be St. Augustine grass, I have a great solutions. And that's what the factory is very sensitive on. We have an issue, we'll solve it with the product. We have made a big push on social media this last year, more even since the beginning of the year, because really I look at from a marketing point of view, our marketing guys keep saying, what do we want to do? Where we want to invest our monies? Because we don't have the budgets that some of the other guys have. You know, I feel social media is where everybody needs, you know, is looking at the product. And so we have an Instagram page, we have a Facebook page, we have LinkedIn page, we have our own websites. So we encourage everybody to look at those, take a look at the products, but mostly talk to people like you that have sold it and, you know, that are installed it and know the product. That's where the real, you know, where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, you know, for me, you know, one of the things we've talked about in the past is, you know, like your unit, like you can take in, if you have a question of the slope, you can run it in remote control and actually run that slope. And before you have to install a wire anywhere, you can check that slope. I mean, that's a great feature of your guys' robot, I do have to say, for the people listening. You know, the other some of the other things that I'd like to say, you know, and I know we've talked about it, so I'm kind of trying to drag it out, is you know, some of the things that some people they're trying to do in robotics. And you know, here, I'll say it like this: everybody is like sitting on the fence waiting for robots to just not have wires anymore, right? But I always tell people, in my experience, you know, the wires are not the enemy. If you're upset, or if you're worried about wires, it just means you're not confident in yourself to get and train good installers. That's the way I see it, right?
Yeah.
And that's been kind of my secret success, is the ability to train good installers. But what's your thoughts on some of that? What are some things that Ambrosio has tried and realized it's not even worth it in the North American market right now?
Well, and that's the fun part of working with a factory that is basically been in robotics as long as these guys have, because is anytime I see something or we hear something about what our competitors are doing, one of the systems, a GPS system that one of our competitors came out with. First time, as soon as I got saw the email or the big blast all over media about it, I sent an email to the factory and I said, "What's going on? You guys are supposed to be the leaders. What are you doing?" And I went to a meeting there about 2 weeks later, and the director of sales brought me in his office and he says, "Let me show you this system. We had it 5 years ago. This is the problem with it." Another supplier, manufacturer said, "Hey, we're going to do this in this industry." And I just knew that I had just come from a meeting where they said that doesn't work. And so, we're looking at things and they're testing things. They're not looking at things today on the robots. We're looking at things, right now we're talking about our 2022 lineup, and which will offer a wireless model for those that are interested in it, but we want to make sure that they're always working on building and looking at moving the needle forward. But these guys are looking at innovation, and they've tried a lot of these things. So it's pretty fun to see that these guys can lead the way in this process if people knew what they were doing.
Yeah. So first, I have to say the quad. I'm super excited. I ordered it, so I'm waiting for it to get into my dealership, and I'm actually already have a site. I think I'm going to put it at right away. One of the things that I think is awesome is the radar system. Do you want to expand a little more on that?
Yeah, and I'm not the technical one, so we want to just kind of preface that in the whole process.
But okay. This is I'm interviewing Jerry. I don't want to tell everybody about this. I want you to tell.
The way that it was explained to us is, you think about it is, we've tried the satellites. The problem with satellites is you have to have a clear line of sight, or you can't have objects in there, and you got to be able to get a right trajectory of the product. So that's a challenge. We looked at infrared. The problem with infrared is lenses get dirty. So our system is actually going to be incorporated into the quad. It's already incorporated in the quad. They've been running this unit over in Europe for almost a year. Typically, what we do is we ask for a year of running before we bring it to the North America market. Puts us a little behind on everybody else, but the reality is I don't want to have any issues or bugs with it when I get it here. I know that it has a proven track record. So the quad has what we call a radar system. And the question came up in a meeting is, how do you think a Tesla drives in a tunnel? They're not driving off satellite. They're not driving off infrared. They're using a radar system like our old submarines used to do. You think about it. And the idea behind the quad and the way that I understand it, and our technical service manager can go into a lot more detail of it, but basically what it is, it's emitting a signal and it's reading things that are there. If the quad will never bump into a tree. It will never bump into a pole. It will sense that product. If there's a pet or a person out in the yard, it'll stop before it gets close to them, because the radar is constantly out there monitoring it, and it has a smart system on it, smart chips on it, where it actually learns it. So let's say you've got flower beds and things like that, where it's going to go over there, it's going to learn that there's a difference, and it's going to remember it. So the technology these guys are doing, the fact that it's a 4-wheel drive system that works as a square. So it doesn't have the issue of worrying about trying to come down a hill. You don't have the overheating issues. You got independently 4-wheel drive motors driving this thing. It's pretty cool, and we're excited about getting it.
Being a square is it's got to get incredibly close to fixed objects.
Yes,
fences, retaining walls, because you don't have all that wasted space. The back wheels. It's a square. So that is something that I saw. If anybody hasn't seen it yet, there's YouTube videos on this Ambrosio quad. You should go watch one. They're really pretty cool. I mean, I'm quite excited about that unit.
You are going to get one of the ones that come. You are scheduled to get one of the ones. Your distributor has them on order for. That's a cool thing. But we are going to have a limited amount of them this first year because of the fact that they can't build them fast enough, and just with inventory issues. So you're fortunate to have already placed your order for one. So there's some still in the pipeline, but you definitely will have one, and you'll be blown away by what it does. So,
Well, I
exciting.
jump at these things. When I see them, I want one. I'm pretty sure I also ordered your solution to St. Augustine. So do you want to explain that mower?
Well, one of the issues you have with St. Augustine grass is, and this is from me learning and experiences, is we had a distributor down in Florida, and they said, we were interested in your mowers, but they have to be able to cut grass. And with St. Augustine, once again, I'm not a specialist in this field, but from what I know as a salesperson, you got to keep that St. Augustine grass around 3.5 inches minimum is where you want to have it. Our highest robot only goes 2.8 inches. So what you're running into the issue is we could hit that bare line. As long as they kept it watered, it was fine. But that wasn't the solution. We had to come up with a solution. So we reached out to the factory. They actually sent their lead engineer over here. They spent almost 3 weeks down in Florida, and they had never seen anything like St. Augustine grass. But what they found was it's not as simple as putting bigger tires on a robot and having it go up higher. That doesn't, because the problem with St. Augustine grass is it has like a mesh on the bottom of it, which gets things hung up on. And so there was a whole learning curve that they had to do and we had to do. And basically what it ended up with, within, we've done almost 2 years of testing now, within like 9 months, they had a new robot for us. The new robot, which you're going to see shortly here, is basically what they did is they increased the height of it from a 3.6 from a 2.8 to 3.7. So we're high enough to cover the higher grass. Now we also have a little flexibility if you want to come down. But the other thing we did is we put steering wheels in the front. Because the problem you have is when you go out, and this is where these guys are always thinking, what's not just the problem, but how long term. The thing is with regular caster wheels is they would get stuck. They get stuck in that heavy, when the grass is heavy, the grass is thick, they will get stuck. What these wheels will actually do is they'll actually turn. They don't steer, they don't drive. They're only steering wheels, but they actually drive the mower in the correct direction. And so you don't get stuck. You don't worry about that dip where it has to get stuck a little bit. And so it's pretty amazing.
So Jerry, I want to expand on this because I try to explain this to people, and this is one of the reasons I'm really excited about this. I mean, so people, I'm all smiles. Jerry knows this. He's looking at me right now. So one of the things that I always say about the caster type setups is it's kind of like a shopping cart. If you have a shopping cart in a grocery store, you're pushing the back, you have those front wheels. And when you want to change direction, those front wheels are just going to pivot and kind of move backwards. On a grocery store floor that's tile, that works really easy. But when you get it, imagine doing the same thing in snow or if you were in sand, okay? You hit a point where when that wheel goes sideways, the unit has to pull that 90 degree and then get it to go back to the straight angle. Those are typically the situations where you lose traction. So on all your outer edges of the turf where the mower has to switch direction, you actually start to get some wear marks from the mower or from the wheels. And going back to that St. Augustine grass, it's like wet. It's like a web. It holds the stuff there. So I actually think it's brilliant that they came up with that. And I'm kind of hoping that if that system just works well, that just starts to become an option on a lot of the mowers. Or to me, if that works well, that'll just be the unit I start to use because I can see it's saving a lot of issues. And even, it has to help with slope descent, would it not, Jerry?
Yep, absolutely.
Because the other thing is if you're going down a hill, that's one of the reasons why I always tell people when you're doing an install, if it's going down even a slight hill, you want a flat spot because if the mower has to stop and get those caster wheels to pull the other way, that's where it has issues.
Exactly.
And I really feel like this is going to solve a problem for robotic mowing in general.
It's things like this that, they put in that extra little thought into it and little planning into it that kind of separates us from everybody else. But sometimes we're the best kept secret,
Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to get out and talk about.
And I appreciate that.
People, so people can hear about it. So then, so talking about the too many lines, so one of the things that I've always thought was, okay, for me, for the landscapers I'm working with, I want to keep it simple. all of your newer mowers, the 4.0, the 4.0 Elite, the 4.36s, the L20s. They're all basically they're all just a really brilliant white, coloring, touch screens. You lift it, I'm just trying to paint this to the people. You lift it open, it's like a touch screen display. That's what I'm doing. So, like Jerry said, but if somebody calls me and says I want the one that looks like a Ferrari, I can get it. It's red, and but to me, those are basic. They just seem to be the best for what I do, which everybody knows. I have mowing per acre. I have these service agreements, and I'm mowing per acre. So to me, I just want what's going to last me the longest and have the least amount of problems.
And that's why Ambrosio is such a good choice. Look at the battery life in our units. That separates us from a lot of our competition. My robot, that one that you saw in the picture, that 250 Elite, it'll mow 7 hours between charges. So what I'm doing is I'm extending that life expectancy of the battery, and I'm extending so when you talk about cost of product and things like that, is my battery is going to outlast any other competitors out there, because I don't mow that. I'm not going through that many charges on it. So no, I get it. But we also find is we don't expect everybody to have every robot, but we want to make sure that, for instance, when you have that one situation, you're going, I need a smaller robot. It's a leveled area. Maybe I need a little different robot. We have an option for you. That's what we want to be able to do. So, and the 20s, the 20's been an amazing robot, the L20, and I know you've done some things with that.
I love it. It looks like a little Mars rover. I do really like the L20. I think those knobby little wheels on the back, for that price point. The 16, what is it? What's MSRP on that? Like 1690 or something.
Right in that area. Yeah.
The price point on that mower is really attractive for what you get.
And that's I at first saw that mower. I'm not going to lie. My thought was it's a toy. It looks too small.
Europe, it does look,
Yeah, Europe, it was huge. They were selling the L15s, the L20s now, and they've been doing very, very well with those. But I look at it, and we've taken it to trade shows, and in the past, and we put it on counters and tops, and people walk by and say, that looks like a good little toy. But I tell you, that thing will mow a quarter of an acre. It'll manage a quarter of an acre.
Really fast.
Yeah. And
so that's the thing about it, is it moves fast.
Yep.
Jerry, that's the thing.
We're bringing out the next version up from that, the 20S Plus. That's a third of an acre, Joe. Third of an acre that little guy will mow, and will keep it mowed and managed, and that's just pretty impressive. Yeah. So, I know we're excited about.
It's pretty cool, and like I said, you can run that right off the phone, kind of remote control. So tell me. Hopefully, I don't put you on the spot with this, but are they working on a fleet app? Is there when can I expect a fleet app with Ambrosio?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because we feel we have the best product in the world. We feel that we have the product from commercial to industrial to homeowner. And one of the parts that we're missing, we totally agree, is the fleet option. The ability. Now I can put as many robots as I can, if I want to take the time to put in my phone app and have them work with it. But in a commercial application, we need a fleet app. We were supposed to have launched a new fleet app last year. COVID didn't help, and there were some other changes. We will have one. I'm hoping within the next 90 days. The minute I have the app, Joe's going to get a phone call, because we're going to get him to experience it and try it. The one thing about Zucchetti is the manufacturer of Ambrosio. If you Google Zucchetti Spa, you're going to find the manufacturer. One thing you find out about these guys is they don't want to do something just to be as good as we don't want to be just the same fish in the pond. And they told me, we have a system we can put out. I said, give it to me. I'm missing opportunities with landscapers. And their comment was, no, we won't get it until we've exceeded the expectations. And that's why we're about, I believe, less than 90 days out. I'm giving myself a little buffer. So good. That's where I'm in. So we expect to have one this year. We expect to have one before too long here. And what the whole idea behind it is, we don't want to be just like everybody else's system. We want something that actually will help you manage that fleet in an easy to operate, easy to track. I can bring up my robot right now on an individual basis. I can tell you anytime it had a bump stop in a yard, anytime it had a stall in a yard, anytime it got stuck in a yard, I can see by how long it was running where it was at. You're going to be able to do that on a big picture. And it's going to make managing the robots so much different. But they wanted to make sure, and they've been testing it. We always want them to test for up to a year before they bring it over here. And so that's part of our delay, but we will have it for you, Joe.
Good. Well, I mean, that's music to my ears and probably a lot of people's ears, because, you know, what, and I want to expand on this. If there's anybody on the fence getting into it, is, you know, this was nothing I was going to be worried about my first year into robotics, you know, to expand on what Jerry said, you know, to go in and shut down 5 or 6, that's really no big deal. When you start getting hundreds of them, now you start looking and you say, okay, well, now all my technicians, like Jerry, you might not know this, but what I do is, like, I expect a technician to monitor 50 robots. Okay. So it's easy with the current apps that we already have in place for a technician to look and monitor 50. But in that panic moment where you get a pop-up thunderstorm and, you know, they're made to mow in the rain, they can mow in the rain, but let's face it, it's my investment and I don't want them getting flooded. You know,
Sure.
If you're going to be successful with robotics, you still interact with them as a human and you protect your assets. So we'll say, okay, well, culverts could get water in them. I don't really want them in a retention pond or the Kishwaukee River or whatever. So you park them, you know, and now your guys have rain sensors. So that gives us a step up also, because if it starts to rain, it's going to park itself. But but these fleet apps really help you in those panic moments, or frost, you know, if all of a sudden it's colder than we expected and we want to park them all. Nobody wants to park mowers for 4 hours, because when you have hundreds of them and you go one by one, it takes too long. So this is exciting.
Yeah.
So for anybody not understanding why I'm so excited about the fleet app, my goal is one day to get all of the people listening to this show that are into robotics to understand why we need fleet apps.
And we totally are in agreement on that. I mean, it's been something that we've been asking for probably 3 years now, 4 years we've been asking for it. And sometimes things take a little longer than we want, but the end result is what we want. And then, you know, we'll be talking about this next year, about what amazing fleet app that is and how you've had it out in the field for this year and how you love how it's doing. I would rather have that than you say, well, you know, it had a lot of bugs, a lot of problems. So
yeah, no, I appreciate that. Exactly. I don't want to be, you know, the guinea pig that's debugging everything. I want to take it and use it and say, yeah, I like it. You know, good job. Yep. So I mean, that's awesome.